How much does Geico pay for bodily injury? Geico's payout for bodily injury depends on several factors, including the limits of your policy, the severity of the injury, and whether you are at fault in the accident. Bodily injury liability insurance is designed to cover medical expenses and other costs if you are responsible for causing an accident that injures someone else. Below is an overview of how Geico handles bodily injury claims. First, bodily injury liability coverage. Geico offers bodily injury liability insurance as part of their auto insurance policies. The amount that Geico will pay for bodily injury is determined by the coverage limits you choose when purchasing your policy. Coverage limits typically come in two numbers. Per person limit, the maximum amount Geico will pay for one individual's injuries. Per accident limit, the maximum total amount Geico will pay for all injuries in a single accident. For example, a common bodily injury liability policy might look like $50,000 per $100,000, meaning $50,000 is the maximum payout for bodily injury to a single person. $100,000 is the maximum payout for all bodily injuries in one accident. 2. How Geico pays for bodily injury claims. If you are at fault for an accident and the other party suffers bodily injury, Geico will typically pay up to your policy limits for medical expenses, lost wages, and other related costs. However, if the total costs exceed your policy limits, you could be held responsible for the remaining balance. Third, state requirements. Each state has different minimum requirements for bodily injury liability coverage. In some states, the minimum bodily injury coverage is as low as $15,000 per person and $30,000 per accident. In higher risk states or for drivers looking for more protection, higher limits may be available. Fourth, factors influencing payouts. The payout amount for bodily injury claims depends on medical expenses. Geico will typically cover medical bills, including hospital stays, surgeries, and rehabilitation. Lost wages. If the injured party is unable to work due to the injury, Geico may cover lost income, pain, and suffering. In some cases, compensation may also be provided for pain and suffering, though this can vary by state and the severity of the injury. Policy limits. As mentioned, Geico will only pay up to the coverage limits you have selected. If the injury costs exceed your limits, the at-fault driver may have to pay out of pocket or rely on their own personal assets to cover the difference. 5. Uninsured or underinsured motorist bodily injury. If you are involved in an accident where the at-fault driver does not have sufficient bodily injury liability coverage, or no insurance at all, Geico may provide coverage through your own uninsured underinsured motorist policy. This type of coverage can help pay for medical bills and other expenses if the at-fault party is unable to cover the costs. Geico will pay for bodily injury up to the limits of your policy, and the amount depends on the severity of the injury and the applicable coverage. It's important to choose the right coverage limits to ensure that you are adequately protected in the event of an accident. To get the most competitive quote on insurance in your area, simply click on the link in the description below.